member for Davenport.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. It is an absolute pleasure for me to be addressing the House on this issue of Bill C-26 on behalf of the residents of Davenport. You know, I love meeting with the residents of Davenport, and I have over the last few months, actually since I was elected, I constantly meeting with them. And the groups of people I most enjoy are actually seniors. They are not shy about letting me know about what they're thinking about, what they're worried about, whether it's for themselves or for their families. They always joke with me. They often say to me, Julie, when is the Prime Minister of Canada going to give me a raise? They talk to me about the increasing cost of prescription drugs. They talk to me about just the increasing costs of everyday life. They also tell me that they're worried about their children. And so I also have spoken to many of the middle-class Canadians that work in my riding, and they tell me that their pensions and saving for their pensions is one of the things that most worries them. And maybe that's where I'm going to start off, Madam Speaker, is just maybe taking us and reminding us all of some of the facts. We know that middle-class Canadians are working harder than ever, and that many are worried that they will not have enough set aside for retirement. And I have heard that time and time again right across my riding. And I'm sure that that is a message that is heard right across this country in every riding. We know that there's been extensive analysis conducted by our finance department and by provincial governments, and they have found that around 1/4 of families nearing retirement, so some 1.1 million families, face a drop in their standard of living when they retire, and this is absolutely something worrisome. We also know that according to Statistics Canada, in 2014, only 37.9% of employees had a pension plan, and that number was trending down. We know from the Broadbent Institute, who put out a report earlier this year, that only 47% of those aged between 55 and 64 have no accrued employer pension benefits, and the vast majority are retiring with inadequate savings retirement. We also know from that same report that just 15 to 20% of middle-income Canadians retiring without an employer pension plan have saved anywhere near enough for their retirement. So we know that there is a huge worry. We see the statistics. We know that Canadians currently are not saving enough for their retirement, and we know that their action needs to be taken. And I know that there was a commitment from our party, from the Liberal Party in the last election, that we were going to improve the Canadian pension plan, and indeed that is what we are proposing. I'm very proud, Madam Speaker, that our Minister of Finance met with his provincial counterparts earlier this year, and in June came up with a way to enhance our Canadian pension plan. And I just want to say that it is not easy to be dealing with all the provinces. I know that the Ontario government had their own pension plan enhancement that they were planning to put into place. I know that there were a number of other provinces that were further down the line in terms of what it is that they wanted to do. So I know that this was a huge effort on behalf of our Minister of Finance. It was a huge coming to the table by all parties, all ministers of finance from all provinces right across the country. And I just want to say that I think it was wonderful leadership, and it was a wonderful show of cooperation right across this country to actually enhance the Canada Pension Plan and to really be thinking about the future of all Canadians in every provinces. And so maybe what I'll do next is actually take this opportunity to say, what does the enhancement of the Canada Pension Plan mean? What are the changes that are actually being proposed? And Madam Speaker, I should say that I'm going to be heavily sort of using information from a wonderful CBC news article that I happen to be reading. Just because it makes it so easy to understand, and I wanted to make sure that I'm actually explaining in a way that's really easy for people in my riding of Davenport and all Canadians to understand what we're actually proposing. So the premiums, so what's happening is, the first thing is there'll be an increase in premiums, and the increase in premiums will be both for the worker and for the employer. So under the enhanced or the proposed enhanced plan, the CPP will replace fully 1/3 of a person's pre-retirement income, up from the current 25% replacement rate up to a maximum amount of earnings that will also rise quite a bit. So right now, a worker and or her employer contributes 4.9% of a worker's income annually. So that's about $3,500 to, that's on earnings between, I'm just going to go on to the next point since I don't understand this actual statement I was about to say. So what happens is currently we are contributing, a worker and employers contributing 4.9% of their income to the plan. And what the proposed change is that is we are going to be increasing it by 1 percentage point. So it's going to go up to 5.95%. It will be phased in over 5 years beginning in 2019. So by the time the higher premium is fully put into place, which is in 2024, a worker that is earning on average around $50,000 a year will pay roughly about $25 a month more in premiums, or almost $300 a year. So that just gives you an idea about what's going to be happening to our premiums. So there's going to be a bit of an increase on the employer side, but also on the worker. So we're all working to try to better save for our future retirement. So what happens to benefits? So how will Canadians benefit from this increase? So what does this actually mean? So I think in plain terms, a middle-income Canadian entering the workforce now who earns around $50,000 a year would receive a pension of around $16,000 a year in retirement, instead of currently what they would be receiving, which is around $12,000. And that's according to our Finance Canada. I should note, though, that younger workers will be contributing at the higher rate for a longer period of time, so that 5.95 that I was talking to you about. But it's an investment in their future, as my colleagues have been talking about, and they also stand to gain the most when they eventually reach retirement age. I will say to you that, and I know it's very sad for the members of those of my riding of Davenport, they'll be very sad that the current retirees are going to be saying that they're sad that the current CPP enhancements are not sort of going to be positively impacting them. But we do have a number of different programs that we are putting into place that will be benefiting them moving forward. So that just, just let me give you just one other thing I wanted to mention, just because I thought this was an interesting fact that I read. There was some concern by a number of people that this increase in CPP and the increase in the premiums will actually impact lower income Canadians. And so what the Minister of Finance and his provincial counterparts have agreed is that it will be an expansion of the existing refundable tax credit, known as the working income tax benefit, to offset any higher premiums. So the maximum payout for this program is currently $1,800 for a family earning less than $28,000 a year. So what we're trying to say is that we want to make sure that we are protecting those that are lower income. And so we've been very thoughtful to try to make sure that not only is this going to be benefiting future generations, helping middle-class Canadians, helping youth invest in their future and invest in their retirement, but we're also making sure that we're putting some protections around those who are more on the lower end of salaries in Canada. So the next thing I wanted to mention is there's been a lot of concern in terms of impact to small business. And I have a lot of those small businesses in my riding, and I know that they were very happy to hear that it is actually something that's going to be implemented over 5 years. And so I think they appreciate that there is going to be a sort of enough time for them to be planning, for them to be organizing, for them to be arranging. And so I believe that while there will be an impact, I think overall it would be beneficial to our both businesses, to our workers, to our overall economy, and to Canadians in general. And I'll tell you in general, how many minutes do I have left, Madam Speaker?
39 seconds.
Oh, well, that is just wonderful. I spoke far more than I thought. So I wanted to just say, I think in conclusion, I just want to say that I encourage everyone in this House to vote in favor of supporting Bill C-26. I think it'll benefit youth, it'll benefit families, and it'll ensure future generations are more secure in their retirement. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments?